Welcome back to the Healthcare Rewritten podcast. Today we are continuing our gut pathogen series talking about Helicobacter pylori, which is a very common infection that can stay hidden and wreak havoc on the rest of your digestive system if it's not treated appropriately. So stay tuned through the rest of the episode where we talk about how it occurs, how it's commonly treated, and what we should actually do to prevent it and get rid of it. So as a reminder, this is not medical advice. This is for educational purposes only and does not replace a one-on-one relationship with your provider. If you have questions about your healthcare condition, then you need to consult your provider. Now let's dive into the episode.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Healthcare Rewritten podcast.
Happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday.
Tuesday.
We had a professor who what would he say exactly?
He'd say happy Tuesday. Hope you're all staying safe.
Was that our radiology professor?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Diagnostic imaging. Mm-hmm.
He was a great guy. He wore that cool hat.
Yeah.
What are those things called?
A fedora or something.
Is that what they're called? Something like that.
Yeah.
He was really cool. So we're here today somehow. Here's the deal. If you've ever felt like you didn't want to do something, but you knew you had to, let this podcast today be the inspiration that you need, because I was almost asleep on our chiropractic table. Really tired. I don't know what's gotten into me the past week.
I don't know either. Maybe it's the no sugar.
Maybe. Super tired. But we're here, so let's dive into it. We're going to talk all about H. pylori today. Common trend or theme that you'll notice with this episode as well, that I feel like we should just reiterate again, is the terrain.
Mm-hmm.
Something that we've talked about with the parasites, something that we've discussed with bacteria overgrowth and the microbiome in general, is making sure that we have the right terrain set up. If you don't have the right terrain or environment for good bacteria to grow, the bad bacteria to stay away, and other pathogens to stay away, you're going to be in this never-ending cycle of infection, whether that's with yeast, bacteria, fungus, parasites, you name it. So you have to make sure that your terrain or your environment is adequately stable so that you don't have these recurrent infections.
So let's talk about H. pylori, Helicobacter pylori. It is a very common infection, and it's way more common than people even understand it to be. So what is it? It's a bacteria, obviously. And where does it usually happen? In the stomach. So the bacteria itself is in the stomach lining, right? And it's a normal bacteria to have, but it can become infectious when we have an inadequate terrain, like Dr. Collin was saying. Like the immune system's not up to par, your digestive system's not up to par. So then these infections, again, become opportunistic. You heard us talk about that with candida, with parasites. These things are all opportunistic infections. And H. pylori can actually be one of those infections that stays silent for a really long time, but it's one that can also be diagnosed medically, right? So a lot of actual medical doctors will test for this, and patients that come back positive with it, what do? They give them antibiotics, right? And I can't tell you how many times I've had a patient that tested positive for H. pylori. They were given antibiotics, and then their digestive system just becomes a wreck because antibiotics may work to get rid of that H. pylori initially, but then they keep having that recurrent infection over and over again. And when they continually take antibiotics, it obviously disrupts the rest of their bacteria, and it just becomes this vicious cycle. I had one patient, her gut was so bad when we ran her stool test, every single section, there's 5 sections on the Genova stool test, and when they categorize them, they were all at a 10, which is really bad.
That's crazy. And when it comes to H. pylori, it's not always going to be that classic ulcer pain, right? Things that we can notice would be obviously bloating. Obviously, if you have any sort of overgrowth or infection, you're most likely going to experience bloating in some way, shape, or form. Also, reflux, histamine issues is a big one, right? Anytime that we're dealing with low stomach acid or inadequate stomach acid, that's where the histamine responses can definitely kind of stem from. Obviously, skin issues is a big one, insomnia, and then I would say low ferritin is a super common one as well, which is also associated with like gut dysbiosis in general. So those are some things that aren't typically associated, or you don't think, top of mind or associated with H. pylori, but they are really commonly associated with them.
Also acid reflux. I don't know if you mentioned that one.
Well, I said low stomach acid, which if you guys don't know, what really drives low stomach acid or acid, I said that backwards. I'm not editing this. I'm too tired to edit this. Yeah. So Other reflux, way. Right? Reflux is commonly due to low stomach acid. There we go. I got it out.
Which is crazy because H. pylori can be caused by low stomach acid, but it can also suppress stomach acid. So what I've noticed when we kind of delve into the research of these things and the physiology and the biochemistry behind a lot of physiological processes, one thing causes one thing, but then that thing causes that thing to keep happening. It's just a continuous circle over and over and over again. And I feel like the only thing that stops that circle from continuing is just making sure your terrain is good. Your body is in good standing. All of your systems are in alignment.
Yeah, it's like what came first, the chicken or the egg, but with the immune system. Right.
Exactly.
So what can lead to patients who have this recurrent H. pylori infection? Like what can drive that besides just inadequate terrain?
Like if we get to the specifics, right? So majority of the time, these people have acid reflux. Okay. So what are you given when you are diagnosed with acid reflux?
You're given a PPI.
Yeah, like long-term PPI use, which PPIs, if you don't know, are proton pump inhibitors, meaning that they stop your body from pushing out hydrogen, which is what is needed for, or not hydrogen, sorry, protons, which are hydrogen essentially, for acid production in the stomach. Okay. So if you have low stomach acid causing acid reflux, you're given a PPI or you take Tums or Pepcid to suppress your stomach acid even more, you're more than likely going to have that opportunistic infection pop up.
Yeah, because remember, stomach acid isn't necessarily just to break down food. It's also to help sterilize as well. And if we don't have that adequate stomach acid, then infections and overgrowths are going to be more common. Something else I wanted to make sure, I was curious if you would have answered it this way, but why can H. pylori stick around, or why does it basically recur? I would say that breaking that biofilm a lot of the times doesn't happen either, whether that's with conventional medicine approach or even holistic medicine or like the holistic approach. That biofilm that basically grasps and holds that can definitely still not be basically in quotes busted enough, right, to completely eradicate.
Yeah, that's why antibiotics don't always work, and they're having to take multiple rounds of antibiotics to even achieve some symptom relief. But majority of the time they don't get that, and then they just get worse and they end up with like gastritis or colitis or, some sort of inflammatory process throughout the rest of their digestive tract.
And I said this today on an episode on my show. You have to make sure that you are doing the basics. Lena and I say this all the time. If you're listening to this right now and you're concerned about H. pylori, I encourage you to make sure that you are doing the fundamental things first. You are getting your sleep. You're making sure that you are having daily bowel movements, that you're not eating foods that are going to inhibit nutrient absorption or drive inflammation. You want to make sure that you're hydrating your cells. You want to make sure you're moving your body, right? All of those things are extremely important, because if you don't have those fundamentals set, looking at one, in quotes, cause and trying to just put all of your focus and energy towards that isn't going to mean that much if you don't have the other things set in stone. So just let that be a lesson right now. If you are listening, make sure that you have those fundamentals set before really taking a deep dive. You can take a deep dive, but also focus on the little things too.
The little things that make the biggest impact.
How do you test for H. pylori?
So we use Genova diagnostics through a stool test, right? So the best way to test for H. pylori, it is an add-on with our test, but it's a 3-day stool test, and they add on the marker for H. pylori in the Genova stool test, right? So sometimes it comes back positive. Sometimes when I'm expecting it to come back positive, it comes back negative. It just depends on the individual. But if you have H. pylori, you will come up positive on a stool test.
And it's done through PCR. And typically, right, when we're running H. pylori and we're suspecting it, even if it's not popping up, it's a good thing or a good sign that maybe something else is going on. And that's typically when we'll find that parasite instead, or we'll find a bunch of yeast. And I mean, H. pylori can be masked by yeast or parasitic activity too. So it's not like the end all be all on a stool test, but it does help guide us in the right direction on where to address what first.
I would say that the biggest red flag for me to consider H. pylori is chronic acne. You know, people who have cystic acne, they always think it's hormonally driven, but majority of the time it's infection driven. Majority of the time. And H. pylori is one of the bigger culprits.
Yeah. And if you have H. pylori, if you're a woman listening right now and you have a bunch of skin issues and you think it might be hormone related, I'm not saying you're wrong, but there might be something that's driving the hormones to become imbalanced in the first place. Or you have an infection or an overgrowth in the gut microbiome that's contributing to the skin response, which is exacerbating the hormonal dysregulation, which is driving skin issues or estrogen dominance.
If you want this specific type of approach, you want to do the comprehensive testing. You want to find out if it's actually your gut that's the problem, or you have H. pylori, or you have one of these other opportunistic infections that we've talked about on this gut pathogen series. Make sure that you use the link in the description to schedule a commitment call with either myself or Dr. Collin. We are also offering our new patient appointment for $99 for the rest of the month of January. So you better take advantage of that now, because this price will not be offered anytime soon. So make sure you take advantage of that. That is where we will do a deep dive into your health history, and we can make recommendations for testing based off of what you have going on and what are your health goals, so we can help you achieve those.
Yeah, we have a lot of people who just wait a little while before they want to get working with us, but then they do. And it really helps facilitate the entire process, because you know what you know, but then you really, in order to put everything into action, to have that accountability, to have the actual data in front of you, it really does help snowball the process and push you in the right direction just a little bit further. But you do have to be ready for that process.
From this series that we've done on gut health and pathogens, right? We said this in the beginning, but the terrain is the biggest thing. And I say this to my patients all the time. If everyone had adequate stomach acid, majority of people would not have gut issues, right? Wouldn't you agree?
I would say so. I mean, people would probably digest not only their foods better too, but even if they're taking supplementation, you need to have adequate stomach acid for that too.
It's insane. And people don't even sit and think about that. What contributes to their low stomach acid? A lot of times it's stress related.
Well, and that's like the general answer for why everyone has low stomach acid in the first place. Typically, you're going to see the biggest driving force from alcohol. Alcohol can definitely deplete your stomach acid. And everyone, at least in America, I'm not going to speak for other countries here, but we have a terrible relationship with alcohol. We are over consuming alcohol. It's a social lubricant, right? But then the other factor that can decrease stomach acid is stress. And stress looks different for every single person. I think, at least as an American society, we're running 1,000,000 miles an hour. We don't slow down at all. We're constantly and chronically stressed. We're in terrible relationships or situations, right? Work is super stressful. We don't have breaks financially, right? Politically, climate, all of it. It's just all super stressful. And then on top of that, the food environment is not helping that at all. So we are chronically stressed. We chronically are going to have low stomach acid, and then things like this pop up all the time. And the worst part about it is you bring this to your doctor and they say, oh, well, no, that's not it. Or that's just a bunch of mythical BS.
Woo woo.
Yeah. But it's the reality.
We talk about this a lot, just you and I, about how people have lost the connection between their nervous system and eating. Like having that connection, I think people are missing. People are, like you said, are always in fight or flight. And I think what's an important distinction to make is that our bodies don't understand the difference between the stress of finances or the stress of running from a bear that's chasing you. Our bodies respond to those types of stressors exactly the same way. So it really realistically doesn't matter how stressed you are or what the stressor is. your body's going to physiologically have that same response.
Absolutely. It can't tell a difference. And that's why when I talk about stress, and I talk a lot about this on my individual podcast, I talk a lot about this on my weekly blog that I have and on my Substack. It's really important to do the hard things and subject yourself to stressors. Subjecting yourself to these stressors is going to be really important in helping your body adapt to stress and know how to overcome it. If you decide to wake up in the morning and go in the cold shower or go in cold water or go and work out early on in the morning or dedicate yourself to eating something that isn't the most enjoyable, when you have an actual stressor come into your life, those things are going to be just a little bit easier for your body to handle.
That's a good point. That makes a lot of sense.
And it also makes you feel a little bit more, it makes you have more gratitude for things too. Something that I was talking to one of my coaches about was showers, right? If you take a cold shower, one, you're going to do something that's kind of difficult and it's a stressor on your nervous system. It's a shock. But you also at the same time will feel very, very gracious for the, not gracious, what's the right word? You'll have a lot of gratitude for the warm water as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a good way to look at it.
Yeah, that's true. Although I'm grateful for cold showers when my skin flares up. It feels good.
Does it?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know why. I feel like hot showers just make me like, if you don't know, I struggle with my skin health quite a bit. And if you've heard us talk about this, your skin health is more than likely connected or linked to your gut health. But lately my skin's been flaring up and I've noticed that when I take a hot shower, it just makes me itch way more. But if I take a cold shower, it helps to calm it down and it feels good. So it gives me a break from itching for a little bit. So if you want to go to your medical doctor and ask them to test for H. pylori or your gastro, you could, they would, right? In some cases.
Most likely.
But
they might not.
What they're going to do is they're going to prescribe you an antibiotic. Okay. And so we talked about this. You're most likely going to be on antibiotics repeatedly. They're going to give you different ones. They're going to give you different doses because sometimes it may not kick that infection. So because we talked about this, the biofilm is not being broken of the infection itself. And these pathogens, they don't want to die. We've talked about this before too. They don't want to die. These things are living organisms. They want to stick around for as long as they possibly can. So they build protective mechanisms. So we have to know, how can we break through these protective mechanisms that they develop so that way we can actually eradicate the infection, but then while also building up the immune response, building up the terrain so that these things don't happen again. And that requires the guidance of a practitioner that knows what they're doing.
And testing and retesting is super important. Just kind of flying by the seat of your pants and maybe I still have the infection, maybe I don't.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, can get you somewhere, but you're not going to have the true understanding of, okay, is it gone? And is my environment, is my terrain back to a suitable, happy place? And that's where testing the microbiome and looking at those commensal bacteria to make sure that they're adequately growing and flourishing is extremely important when addressing your gut.
Mm-hmm. Obviously, we're not telling you to not take antibiotics. Okay. Sometimes they can be necessary in some cases, right? But from our clinical experience and from what we've done research on with H. pylori itself, it is a recurrent cycle of having to take them. So if you want to prevent that from happening, you need to get the right testing. You need to have the right supplementation in place. You need to have proper stomach acid support, and you need to have the right practitioner in place to help teach you to prevent it from happening over and over again.
Yep. And it's really important to make sure you are still differentiating. Is it parasitic? Is it H. pylori? Is it a commensal dysbiosis pattern going on? Are there other bacteria overgrowths? Is it Klebsiella? Are those factors playing a role together, or are they individualized, or are they isolated?
Mm-hmm. And also understand that continually suppressing your stomach acid might not be a good thing.
No.
That is like the biggest issue ever is just suppressing the stomach acid. And people are so quick to turn to Tums and PPIs and Pepcid. I used to have to take Pepcid all the time because they would put me on steroids.
People use it forever.
Yeah.
like they have, oh yeah, I've been on Tums, or I've been using these things for like 20 years. What?
Mm-hmm.
You've been taking Tums the rest of basically your entire life?
Yeah. At least half their life.
You imagine that. We are literally living in a world where they are basically handcuffed. Oh, here's me. Like this is my reality. I have to buy this product every single day for the rest of my life because I haven't been taught by my doctors or actually addressed the root cause of why my stomach acid is the way that it is in the first place. So I will buy this thing the rest of my life. What a crazy business model.
Mm-hmm.
That's insane.
Mm-hmm. Don't even get me started on having your gallbladder removed.
We should probably do a whole episode on that.
Yeah. It is crazy how these people get stuck in that whirlwind of medication, over the counter, medication, over the counter, doctor's appointments, medications, over the counter, doctor's appointments. It's just all constant. It's constant.
Back and forth.
Yeah.
For the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Until you can break the chain and do something different.
Yeah.
Which it can happen. I was just talking with one of my patients the other day who was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis and couldn't do anything, right? Kind of like me when I was diagnosed with Crohn's, couldn't do normal daily activities. I could barely work, could barely spend time with friends and family, was afraid to eat anything, was losing weight, got to a point where the doctors weren't helping. They were just running random MRIs, kept doing colonoscopies and endoscopies, really didn't find anything, saw some inflammation. Dude had no guidance whatsoever. Came to me, he's like, I need to just do something else. So sat down with him and we started working on cleaning up the gut, cleaning up the environment. We talked a lot about stressors that he was experiencing on a daily basis, from home stress, relationship stress, that kind of stuff too. Not saying I'm a therapist, but making sure that he was aware of those things and making sure he was able to speak those out and recognize them was important. Did some comprehensive testing and he's like done a 180 already in like 6 months, which is so cool. Mm-hmm. But he would have never got to that point if he didn't explore the alternative approach where actually you get more answers and more discovery because we turn over more rocks. Mm-hmm. Whether you have bacteria overgrowth, parasites, candida, H. pylori, the bottom line that we're trying to get across is that we need to test for it. And you need to make sure that you're not only testing for it, but you're retesting for it to make sure it's eliminated. And you're working with someone to make sure that the environment is stable so this isn't a recurring process. That is the end all be all when it comes to the gut, the microbiome, and making sure that these pathogens aren't coming into play every single month, every single year.
And you need someone to hold you accountable to the basics too.
Hey, that's us.
Yeah. Do you want the tough or the fluff?
Yeah, what do you say? If you want the tough, I'm your guy. If you want the fluff, go see Dr. Collin across the hall.
Yeah.
I don't fluff. I have a different way of presenting.
Yeah, no, you're pretty stern with your patients about the basics. I think you hit those hard.
I do. Well, and I wouldn't say I'm fluffy when I work with my patients, but I make things emotional. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. Mm-hmm. I just kind of hit that angle.
Yeah.
Because it should be.
Well, yeah. I mean, think of the experience that you've had in the healthcare system. That was like detrimental.
It's important to make sure that you know where patients are coming from. I mean, everyone is different, but I mean, I'm a dad. I've basically lost my life to autoimmune conditions. I know what it's like to be at the rock bottom of everything. So like I can empathize because I was there to an extent. So that's kind of like the angle I take when I'm working with my patients. Like, hey, like I've been here too, but also let's get up. Mm-hmm. Like get the fuck up. Mm-hmm. We got to do this.
Yeah. Yeah. Like what are you actually willing to do so that you're not just sitting there complaining about your situation, but you're doing something to get out of your situation?
Yeah. That's really important that you mentioned you can't just complain, because you can't. If you're basically going to your doctor or using your family as a soapbox or whatever, and you're saying X, Y, or Z, like I can't do this because my health permits it, or I have all these health problems, and you're just a chronic complainer and you're saying what all the roadblocks are, you need to start coming up with solutions. That's not going to be easy, but that's why I talk all the time about reflecting on your health and making sure that you're writing down the problems, identifying the roadblock, and then creating a solution. The most successful people in the world are problem solvers. The most successful people with their health in the world are problem solvers. That's why they become doctors.
Mm-hmm.
So I will help guide you in that direction to help solve those problems, but we need to identify them first, which is why health and reflecting on our health is so, so, so important.
Can't tell you how many times it happens where I sit down with someone and they tell me all the reasons why they can't do something. And you like you said, you ask them like, okay, well, what's your solution? And they don't have one because they would rather just sit and wallow in their complaints than actually, do something about it. Or they haven't, it's not even their fault because they've been trained by the system that they've been in, that this is their life, this is the way it's got to be, this is the way it is, and it's going to suck for the rest of your life, and you're just stuck there. They've been told that for years, their entire lives. They've been told, you are stuck this way. You were told that you are stuck this way. Like, how does that make you feel?
It feels awful. I wrote about this in my last Substack article. If you want to check it out, I'll put it in the show notes below. But I joined a Crohn's and ulcerative colitis Facebook group just because I was curious what kind of information is floating around. And what I saw made me sick to my stomach. It almost made me have a flare. But everyone was thinking that there's nothing that they can do. They felt helpless and hopeless, and there was nothing that they can do. They had this diagnosis. They were going to have it the rest of their life, which technically you do, but you don't have to be symptomatic the rest of your life. Yeah. But the system teaches them that they're stuck and they're screwed because of their genetics, and they drew the short straw, and that's the way it has to be. Sucks to suck. That's not the case.
No, you guys, if you work with myself or Dr. Collin, you have the opportunity to change the trajectory of your entire life. We would not be here. You would not be sitting across from me right now if we did not take this approach. I don't know where we would be. You probably would have dropped out of school. We wouldn't have a child. We wouldn't have this practice. Who knows?
I'll say this too. If you start working on your health and you start working with someone to help guide you in the right direction, you're not just benefiting yourself. You're benefiting your partner, your future kids, your siblings, your grandkids, your great-grandkids. You're impacting future generations. There is no way to make a shift with America's healthcare and the road that we are on right now without starting in your own home. You have to. If you can get the fundamentals set and you can be a good role model for your kids, for people living under your roof, it just takes one roof at a time. And that turns into a whole neighborhood, and that turns into a whole city, and then that turns into a whole effing country.
What a legacy you could build just by taking care of yourself. And people say all the time to us, since Vinny's been born, how healthy he is. Because we took the steps to take care of ourselves so that he could have a better life. And now he's a healthy baby. People see that he's a healthy baby, and they want to know what we're doing.
And it's the little things, right? I mean, it comes down to the point where we have to take care of ourselves so we have the energy, we have the patience, right? We have the resources to apply those to Vinny. So he has time spent with his parents. We're not constantly sick. We're not constantly ignoring him because we're sick in bed, or we're too tired, or we're too irritable, so we're negatively impacting him and his emotions and his cognitive development. We're taking care of ourselves to take care of others. I say this all the time. If you want to take care of others, if you want to be a good mom, you want to be a good dad, you want to be a good caregiver, you can't pour into people with an empty cup. You can't. So fill your cup so you can adequately fill other people's cup. And if you do it that way, you will not resent it. You won't.
I know we kind of got off on a tangent there away from the actual bacteria itself, but all of the stuff that we talk about is relevant to that, because we talk about how the terrain is the most important thing when it comes to preventing pathogens, infections, symptoms, conditions from popping up in your life, in your family's life, in your children's life, whoever it is, right? So That about wraps it up for me.
Yeah, I think if you like that kind of style of podcast and information, definitely check out my series. It drops every weekend. It's called By Design. We talk about a bunch of different things, mindset. We'll do some clinical stuff. Definitely we'll talk about like the political landscape too and things that are changing that can impact you. But yeah, I feel like that was a good promo for my show on the weekends because it's a little bit more touchy and emotional in that sense. So definitely check that out. If you like to read as well, we have a bunch of resources for you as well. Lena has a doctor's blog. I have a doctor's blog. We've got a bunch of resources for you guys if you don't like listening all the time.
Mm-hmm. And don't forget, it is still January, so we are still doing our no sugar challenge for the rest of the month. So we have about 11 days left of no sugar January. If you haven't joined, it's not too late. You can start now and do it for 30 days. So I highly suggest that you download the No Sugar Challenge guidelines. Those will be linked in the description below. You'll receive access to a recipe guide. You'll get the no sugar foods to avoid list, no sugar foods to enjoy list, and a bunch of trackers to keep track and hold yourself accountable throughout those 30 days. Anybody can benefit from doing a sugar detox. And if you want more info about that, we have an episode on our No Sugar Challenge. It was a couple weeks ago, so you can go check that out as well. And if you are tired of, trying these different medications, you've tried the reflux medications, you've done the antibiotics, you suspect you have H. pylori, maybe you've seen a naturopath or another functional medicine doctor, and your H. pylori infection either did not go away or it did not improve or your symptoms did not improve, you need more personalized support and more personalized answers. So schedule the $99 new patient appointment that is linked in the description as well. This is the easiest way to get your labs, get clarity, and get a real plan so that you can actually heal and become a better person for not only yourself, but for your family as well.
Good job. Good commercial. Yeah, if you guys like the episode, make sure that you hit the follow button, hit the subscribe button, whichever one it is on the platform you're listening to. Hit the like if you enjoyed it, and then comment down below, have you been diagnosed with an H. pylori overgrowth before? Other than that, that's all I have for you. Lena and I really appreciate you listening to our show. It means a lot to us. We really made this for our patients to help them continue their education on a vast array of topics. And we're trying to hit all of them week by week. Mm-hmm. So thank you for listening. You guys mean a lot to us. We wouldn't be able to do this without you. And we will see you all next week.
See you next Tuesday.
Goodbye.